Thanks for watching. I'm John Rasmus Houston. I've been investigating, researching, just reading the books, the Montauk Project books, since the 90s. I first heard about the Montauk Project in 1990, what year was it? 96? 1996, 1997, around that time frame. I couldn't find the book in any bookstore. I literally ordered the Montauk Project books to be delivered to my local Barnes & Noble, and I picked them up. That's how I got the first 3 Montauk Project books. This isn't my original book. Here it is right here. This is my original Montauk Project book right here. I since ordered a lot, and the lot had a couple cool books, and so now I have 2 copies of the original first book. But I've read almost every single Montauk Project book released by Skybooks USA. Peter Moon. I can show you the other titles. This one is the first book, The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time. This video is part 1 of me talking about the Montauk Project, which I've researched to an extreme, extensive degree. Let me show you the other books I've read. This is book 1, The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, with the rearing horse on the front. Here's book 2. Here's 2 copies of book 2. Montauk Revisited, Adventures in Synchronicity. I've read this book multiple times. I've read this book multiple times. Here's book 3 in the series, Pyramids of Montauk, Explorations in Consciousness. Go Beyond the Occult. Peter Moon, who edited and published these books, is big into the occult, and so he interjected a lot of the occult into the Montauk Project books. But Preston Nichols is the guy who was talking about the Montauk Project at some UFO-type convention. Peter Moon was sitting in the audience. He heard Preston B. Nichols' captivating speech on this Montauk Project he'd never heard of. And he decided, hey, let's collaborate, let's make a book. And that is how the Montauk Project book came to be, that collaboration. Preston B. Nichols could talk for an infinite amount of time about conspiracy theories. I would say he most definitely was one of those conspiracy theory guys. This is video 1, part 1 of the Montauk Project - Inspiration for Stranger Things, the show. Stranger Things was originally going to be called Montauk because of its inspiration from the Montauk Project books. There are more Montauk Project books. As far as other than the original trilogy of books, the 2 books I recommend are the ones written by Preston B. Nichols, the original guy. So these are the 2 spin-off books that I recommend, because it talks more about the Montauk Project from Preston B. Nichols, who has since passed on. Encounter in the Pleiades, an inside look at UFOs, has a purple koala on the cover with a flying saucer surrounded by a jungle, an alien jungle. So it looked interesting, wanted to check it out. And then we have The Music of Time. Preston B. Nichols talked about music in association with the Montauk Project. Music when it comes to time travel. What does music have to do with time travel? Well, Preston B. Nichols could tell a tall tale to mix in anything to do with time travel. Fascinating book, fascinating book. There are even more spin-offs of the Montauk Project books. But here's my 2 latest acquisitions. I probably showed these in a previous video, but I've never done a review. It's the Montauk Book of the Living and the Montauk Book of the Dead, both by Peter Moon, not by Preston B. Nichols. So, personally speaking, I'm more of a purist, and I like the Preston B. Nichols driven stories. He believed wholeheartedly his stories were 100% true. But he says, there is a disclaimer in the Montauk Project books. If you would feel more comfortable believing this is science fiction, go ahead. But it is not. It's true. It's a true story. And claiming it's true is what spiraled it to the level that it has reached today. The movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was somewhat vaguely inspired by the Montauk Project books. The Moody Blues had an entire album. I believe it's called Time Traveler, inspired by the Montauk Project very first book. So the Moody Blues read this book. They loved it so much they made an album inspired by the book. It's pretty interesting. And then, of course, the Duffer Brothers were inspired by the Montauk Project books. I emphasize books so much because I was on the Stranger Things sub the other day, and I said, the original title of Stranger Things was Montauk, and he was inspired by the Montauk Project books. And then some know-it-all Stranger Things superfan spouted off, also inspired by the Goonies and other 80s things. Well, the Montauk Project books came out in the 90s. Shortly after the movie Total Recall, Preston B. Nichols said, Total Recall. He sat in a chair, which brainwashed him to believe he's someone else, programmed him to believe he's someone else. And Preston B. Nichols said that movie Total Recall triggered him into remembering the chair. There's a chair featured in the Montauk Project books where a psychic sits in that chair, Duncan. And Duncan sits in the chair, and with the help of a psychic and extraterrestrial technology, of all things, on some old-fashioned 80s computers, this team of secret scientists were able to open up wormholes to traverse space and time. They could set the wormhole to wherever they wanted, including Mars itself. And they set it to inside the pyramid on Mars, which is directly inspired by, in my opinion, the movie Total Recall. Total Recall totally features the D&M pyramid and assumes the D&M pyramid is an alien structure. And we all know the movie Total Recall. Aliens had technology to melt the ice underneath the surface of Mars to bring life to Mars and give an atmosphere to Mars with their alien technology. But the spout of life-giving air came out of the pyramid in the movie Total Recall. It's all fiction, but Preston B. Nichols watched this and thought it really happened. Now, I personally am of the opinion the Montauk Project is a fabrication, a hoax, but not a malicious hoax. It came from the source of someone who believed anything and everything he heard. There are people like that exist. They believe anything and everything. If they're told there's little green men at Area 51, not only are there green men at Area 51, it's a stone-cold fact in their mind, okay? So with that mindset, you got to understand, Preston B. Nichols believed everything he heard as a fact, without questioning it whatsoever. Some people don't have a filter. They don't have the ability to distinguish truth from fantasy, which does bring some very interesting stories. But for those that believe the Montauk Project is real, I'm an expert on the Montauk Project itself. I went beyond reading all the books, okay? I was on the Montauk Project forum in the year 1999, sending messages with other Montauk Project fans / experts, and I knew everything about all the books. Even Peter Moon forgets things that are in the books, and he's the editor of the books. Just a tiny detail. A couple years ago, I was saying, what about George Lucas's magic from the first movie, mentioned in the Montauk Project books. And this information was sent to Peter Moon, and Peter Moon's like, what are you talking about? I don't remember that. It's literally in the Montauk Project books. I believe it's in the second book. Preston B. Nichols' imagination is, when he was alive and writing, probably dictating, and Peter Moon probably writing down what he said, was very creative. He said that George Lucas hired witches to impress upon the film as he was filming Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, to just make it the most attractive movie in the world, where people were mesmerized and couldn't take their eyes off the screen, as if George Lucas needed magic to make his movie successful. It's just one of the tall tales, spun, that goes on forever. Mark Hamill's name reappears in one of the books. And Mark Hamill apparently has a twin from a parallel universe, a parallel timeline. It goes on and on and on and on. There are countless stories, and I can talk about all of them for hours on end. The Music of Time, for example. In The Music of Time, Preston B. Nichols says he personally knew the Beach Boys. He worked for Buddha Records, according to him. He said the Buddha Records was inspired by him because he was kind of a Buddha-shaped guy. He said the entire record label is talking about him, that he is the Buddha of Buddha Records. He said the Beatles album, he engineered some of it on the back end. He was an electrician. And he says he is the one who worked on Jimi Hendrix's amps and made Jimi Hendrix's guitar sound what it was, based on his electrician expertise. That he literally Jimmy-rigged Jimi Hendrix's guitar amps to have that fuzzy, grungy reverb that didn't exist in previous incarnations of the guitar amp. He has quite an imagination. I would suppose one of the more tall tales in this book is Preston B. Nichols claiming he recorded The Storm in the song Riders on the Storm by The Doors. Apparently The Doors had some studio hand just try to record a storm, and there was always static, and there was too much static to make it a clear storm. And that Preston B. Nichols figured out how to get rid of the static by simply propping up the microphone in a way where there wouldn't be any feedback. And he claims he recorded The Storm on Riders of the Storm. He claims he knew the Beach Boys, and they came to his house to ask for him to work on their guitars or guitar amps, something to that effect. He said he doesn't have photographs of them or anything, but a neighbor or a friend or a family member saw them show up at his house one time. So just hearsay after hearsay, rumor after rumor, never substantiated. You think if he knew Jimi Hendrix personally, met the Beatles, met the Beach Boys repeatedly over and over to the point where he's friends with them, you think he would have at least one single photo. But nope, not a single photo. Oh, Preston B. Nichols claims the reason he knows about the witches who impressed the magic spell upon the film as it was being recorded for the movie is because Preston B. Nichols says he worked on a couple of the Star Wars movies as an engineer, as an electrician. I don't doubt Preston did have some electrician skills, and he invented a speaker setup that fourth dimensionally blasted music, and he said it was peaceful, and if you play it at a certain frequency, Oh my gosh. Preston B. Nichols said there is a... You know how there's brown noise, there's white noise? Preston B. said there's literally a frequency, which is the frequency of the universe itself. And if you play that frequency of the universe itself long enough, strange things begin to happen. He had such a song that resonated that exact frequency of the universe itself. Apparently when the universe was created, one note, one sound resonated. And that sound, if repeated long enough, even on a CD, in a stereo, strange things would begin to happen. Like wormholes would open up, time travel anomalies would take place, time would simply begin to warp, or perhaps timelines would start to, interweave. I don't know, but that's the type of effect Preston B. Nichols claims happens when you listen to that sound. And the song is mentioned in the books. Speaking of songs, one song is entitled Sky High. It's an early disco era. It's an early disco era song called Sky High. And Preston B. Nichols obviously owned a record with Sky High on it. And he claimed he put the Sky High record on, played it for many years, and he would play the song Sky High. If you search Sky High, the song, man, who's it by? It's by the band Jigsaw, of all bands. Sky High by Jigsaw. So search Sky High Jigsaw, that's the song. Preston claims the song Sky High by the band Jigsaw was recorded in the future, and by future I mean the 80s, around the time of the Montauk Project experiments. So in the 80s, what year? I don't know. Maybe it was 1983. I'm not sure the exact year, but I believe it was 83. So the band is recording Sky High in 83 and projecting it back to the 70s during the early disco era. This is even before the term disco was a thing. That's how early of the era it was. You can hear elements of disco in the song Sky High, but it's not full-blown disco. But you can see it was one of the early disco hits. And Preston claims, because the song was recorded by the band via a wormhole from the 80s to the 70s, that some time anomaly took place, where when Preston played the record, after successfully playing it many times, one time he put it on, and the entire record was static. And he says the reason the entire album was static is because some type of time anomaly took place, some type of time paradox. Because they recorded it through a wormhole, it stopped working. And maybe he skipped into a timeline where they didn't record it through the wormhole. Whatever the case, I don't know. It gets tricky. The Beast. The Beast is a black mass of smoke in the Montauk Project that manifested from the subconscious of Duncan, who was in the chair. He's just in a chair plugged up, and the wormhole opens up thanks to his psychic ability, connected with the gray alien extraterrestrial technology plugged into 1980s Earth computers, of all things. And I don't know, maybe Duncan had something dark in his mind, and so the Beast was created, and it wreaked some havoc at Camp Hero, Montauk Air Force Base, where the Montauk Project experiments supposedly took place. And to stop the Beast from destroying the place, they grabbed an axe and axed the power lines to the computers that were running all this stuff, the wormhole, the Beast. They were just trying to get rid of the Beast. So they turned off the computers. Nothing happened. The computers kept running. They got an axe and cut the power lines. The computers kept running. Somehow the computers were using the extraterrestrial alien technology to just suck energy straight out of the power lines, wirelessly. Kind of like Nikola Tesla technology. But this exact scene of cutting the computer's power lines to stop this supercomputer from continuing is exactly mirrored in the movie Superman 3. Richard Pryor's character grabs an axe, cuts the power line, the power cord of this supercomputer, because it's an evil scheme. There's a bad guy against Superman, and he wants to save Superman. He wants to help Superman, so he just tries to destroy the supercomputer. And even after all the power lines are cut, the supercomputer draws energy from the power lines wirelessly, exactly like in the Montauk Project books. But the Superman 3 scenario took place in the 80s, and the Montauk Project book version took place in the 90s. Well, long enough time for it to have been inspired by. Got to understand, Preston B. Nichols. I don't want to throw out the S word, but in my opinion, he possibly suffered from tendencies where you don't know what's going on. You can't distinguish truth from fantasy. Because he's passed on, I don't want to disparage him. He was a creative guy. The rearing horse we all know about. I literally private messaged on the Montauk Project forum in 1999. I said, hey, Preston, I think he might have messaged me first. Anyway, I asked him, the rearing horse on the cover of this book right here, was there a clock in the belly? Did it actually look like the painting on the cover of the book? And Preston said no, there was no clock on the actual horse. He said the artist who did the painting for the cover used artistic license to make it unique, make it their own, and they put the clock on there without me recommending or suggesting it. I just told them to make the horse with the pedestal and the unreadable script on the pedestal. It's kind of a futuristic looking rearing horse. It was definitely a Trojan horse, but it didn't have a clock in its belly. I was like, wow, thanks. That's a key piece of information. I can now pass that on or ask people if they ever saw it, what it looked like. And if they say there was a clock in the belly, I'll know they're lying. But then shortly after Preston private messaged me that, he publicly posted on the forums, oh, by the way, there was no clock in the belly. So it became public knowledge and everyone knew about it. But I thought that was information that was very interesting to learn firsthand from Preston. Preston talked about Montauk boys and Montauk girls. These were literally candidates with shaven heads, put through a militaristic training to go through the wormholes. Through the wormhole, and the year 6037 was the designated location for a lot of the experimentation that these German scientists sent these Montauk boys and Montauk girls through. They sent him to the year 6037, where he was a post-apocalyptic, total everything destroyed, all right? Only a few things standing. One of the few things standing was this rearing horse statue. And they sent them to the pedestal to read the plaque, and then to come back through the wormhole and report back what the plaque said. Apparently the plaque changed from time to time, or apparently every single Montauk boy, Montauk girl read something different from the plaque. So that's kind of an interesting concept right there, in and of itself. As if time changing might have caused the plaque to change. I don't know, because he never really fully explained what was on the plaque. I guess I should have asked him what was on the plaque. But while I'm talking with Preston B. Nichols in 1999 on the Montauk Project forums, he accused me, accuse is not the correct word, but he heavily implied and just straight out said, "Oh, you might be you're probably a Montauk boy. You are probably a Montauk boy. I know it. You are a Montauk boy." And I was like, I'd never been to Montauk. And he might have said, "Oh, well, maybe you don't remember." But I never even been to the East Coast, okay, during this time frame. I have since been to Florida, but I've never been to New York, never been to Long Island, never even remotely in that area. I've been on the West Coast most of my life. But I thought it was a little bit funny that Preston claimed I was a Montauk boy. And then reading his posts on the forums, he accused other people of potentially being Montauk boys as well. And that brings me to the remembrance of a guy mentioned briefly, vaguely in this book, who Preston claimed might have been a Montauk boy too. So that gives me some depth and perspective on him just slanging everyone's a Montauk boy, everyone's a Montauk girl. So it makes me understand that, no, this person mentioned in the book is not a Montauk boy. The person vaguely mentioned as potentially being a Montauk boy further went on to write his own books and claiming to be psychic. And the crux of his entire business is that he is a Montauk boy. And Preston said it, and it is a fact. And he was deprogrammed and everything. You don't want to know about the deprogramming process. I'm not going to mention it, and if anyone mentions the details of the deprogramming process, I'm going to delete the comment. I'm going to censor the crap out of the comment. Please don't mention it. It's not a joke to me, because this channel does not need to be bothered by the deprogramming process, all right? Let's just say it's some disgusting stuff, not suitable for any human being to ever hear about. But yeah, pretty disgusting. Let's move on. The Montauk boys. Montauk girls. The TV show, streaming on Netflix, Stranger Things, season 1, 2, 3, 4, feature heavily a Montauk girl as the key figure, if you will. 11 is clearly a representation of a Montauk girl in the Montauk Project books. And number 1, of all people, number 1 is a Montauk boy. So that's not too much of a spoiler, but that's where I believe the Duffer Brothers got the inspiration for these test subject kids. Unfortunately, they vaguely press upon these kids being sent through wormholes. But these kids are sent through wormholes. It's not really a feature on the show, other than 11 clearly went through a wormhole, and she battled the bad entities through the wormhole. She has experience with that, okay? It's one of the reasons they actually build up these Montauk boys and girls on the show, Stranger Things, so they can fight the entities that come out of the portal. But in the Montauk Project books, they open the portal, they drive trucks through the portal, they send kids to the future, the year 6037. So am I a Montauk boy? According to Preston Nichols, the original author of the story behind the Montauk Project book and the Montauk Project book, I very well could be a Montauk boy. I'm not going to say I am a Montauk boy, but I do have bragging rights in saying Preston Nichols claimed I could be a Montauk boy. I don't think too many people can say that. Probably a couple thousand people can say that, because he probably went to UFO conventions and probably said, "You could be a Montauk boy. You can." And one guy in the book was so stoked about it, he was deprogrammed and continued a psychic career as a psychic Montauk boy. Yeah, that's not something I want to do. But I officially was claimed to have potentially been a Montauk boy by Preston Nichols. Somewhat of an achievement, because he's now passed on. He can't claim other people are Montauk boys and girls, because He is sadly passed on. Rest in peace, Preston B. Nichols. Last video footage I saw of Preston B. Nichols was some journalist going to his trailer house. And it was a nice trailer house, probably on some decent acreage. Just really jimmy-rigged with a bunch of electronics and cool stuff. He looked like a bit of an electronic hoarder. He had a bus totally rigged up to go. He had a friend with a pot on his head. Why? If I had to guess, because Preston B. Nichols warned him, these journalists that are going to visit us today are probably going to try to read our minds. Maybe they're from another dimension, timeline. Maybe they're aliens. Maybe they're the German scientists. Who knows what's going on? Pot on the head. It's like a tinfoil on the head, type of a super conspiracy protective thing going on. Not that this hat does that, but it could. Who knows? I saw Preston B. Nichols' clip on YouTube of him on a talk show talking about how he met himself. So timelines intersect, intercede. I think in one of the books, Preston claims Mark Hamill was a musician instead of an actor. Preston B. claimed that someone grabbed a bunch of pennies, 1943 copper pennies, to prove they're from another timeline. If you had one 1943 copper penny, you'd be holding something very valuable, because they didn't make any 1943 copper pennies except on accident. During the war, they needed all the copper for the war, so they made steel pennies in 1943. But before they made steel pennies, they must have made one plate of copper pennies. And that one plate is a very few number of pennies. And they destroyed most of them. So only a few copper pennies exist in the earth, on planet Earth. And they're worth like up to $1 million a piece. Pretty valuable penny. The most valuable penny in the world. And some guy from the Montauk Project books claimed he had an entire roll of 1943 pennies. That would kind of devalue them if you sell them all at the same time. But if you claim you only have one, oh, I just found one. Whoops, I just found another one. People would claim they're counterfeit, but yeah, even just having $1 million after auction fees and whatever the case, $500,000. Not bad for one penny. Many, many, many wild and crazy claims backed up by nothing. We don't have a photograph of a single one of the 1943 pennies. So it's not much proof that he's from another timeline if he can't show us the pennies. You know what I mean? Preston claimed he had a lot of money, like Navy bonds, and he couldn't cash them out because he wasn't in the Navy. Yikes. If you're not in the Navy, maybe don't put your money into Navy bonds. Anyway, I kind of feel bad for Preston. Preston claimed before he passed away that he did find the pedestal for the horse. So somewhere on his property, there's supposedly the pedestal sitting around there somewhere. I don't know. But maybe he was planning on building it himself. A lot of people make the parallel between the Colorado airport having that gigantic blue rearing horse and claim it is the Montauk horse. I fully disagree. That giant blue horse with the red eye, light, and it's pretty obvious you can just deduce that that red light at the Colorado airport gigantic rearing blue horse statue is because of the height of the statue is so tall. That red light is just to protect against airplanes so they know there's a giant horse statue. Maybe don't fly into it. I did go to the Colorado airport. I did see some of the weird murals, and I really wanted to see the blue horse, but I came in on one area. It's such an immense airport that I didn't even see the blue horse. It was probably on the far other side beyond the parking lot. I don't know, but It's such an immensely gigantic airport that if you're just going from terminal this to terminal that, you're gonna miss everything. I kind of wish my flight was delayed just so I could walk around and check out what's going on. I saw some astronaut statue. I saw some cool stuff, but I got a duty-free Mentos. I was this big, but I missed some of the more famous conspiracy theory things at the Denver airport. And a lot of those conspiracies come from the mother of all conspiracies, the Montauk Project book. Book 2 talks a lot about Duncan the psychic in the chair. Book 3 talks a lot about the occult and wider implications on magic spells having to do with time travel, because it's Peter Moon. That's his author name. Peter Moon, apparently his real name, according to the internet, is Vince Barbarick. So Vince, just big into Aleister Crowley, and he interjects Aleister Crowley into a time travel book when you don't expect to hear anything about Crowley. So Peter Moon's an interesting guy. I have 2 signed books signed by Peter Moon. So that's pretty cool, but I kind of wish I had this signed by Preston B. Nichols. So if I ever see a signed by Preston B. Nichols thing, and how do you know it's authentic? I don't know what his autograph even looks like. But it'd be pretty cool to pick up something like that. Preston B. Nichols. He had quite an imagination. And I mean, one day he said he was at work and he has a Band-Aid on his finger. And he's like, I don't remember putting a Band-Aid on my finger. Clearly, I just transported to another timeline where I got cut and there's a Band-Aid on. What's going on? So I think he might have had blackouts. I think he might have gone in and out of reality in his head. It's just a guess, okay? I can't prove it any more than he can prove that there were experiments at Montauk. Some people claim there were drug experiments. There's an acid house, supposedly. But that sounds like something that was constructed far after it being decommissioned. It sounds like homeless people set something like that up. I mean, how would you prove that that was set up by the military? Or they were in collaboration with these German scientists. The German scientists funded the entire Montauk Project experiments in time with gold. Bars and bars of gold that no doubt they smuggled and stole, maybe with the help of time travel. I don't know. There are some more outlandish stories where they claim they saw Jesus and then a guy showed up with a machine gun and tried to shoot Jesus. And the bullets went straight through Jesus. And Jesus is like, I'm good. I don't think so. That sounds like a scene straight out of a Monty Python movie. Jesus having bullets go straight through him and him being like, But that was in one of these Montauk Project books. At this point, I have read all of them. And I go back from time to time to reference them. But after you read all 3 of these, and then you read these, and then you start reading the Peter Moon spin-offs, you do tend to jumble them in your mind. Perhaps I will do a full book review of each Montauk Project book. I can tell you I've researched the crud out of the Montauk Project back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s. I've researched the Montauk Project so much that I came across a government website, and I knew nobody would believe me, which is why I took a screenshot, of material warfare being buried at Camp Hero, because I wanted to prove that the reason the place is closed off with security is not because of some conspiracy involving time travel. And I was able to prove it. There's literally barrels. I knew about the barrels because I saw the barrel photographs. Back in the day, kids broke into the Montauk Project location, which is Camp Hero, and they saw the basement. There are some that claim there is no basement. Well, there is a basement. Kids broke into it, all right? Most of it's, if not all of it, is fully concreted off by now, hopefully protectively to keep them safe, because in those barrels is toxic waste, officially registered and buried on an official level by the U.S. government. It's specifically listed as material warfare. I found it on a government website, Camp Hero, material warfare, buried. There's not too many places to bury it, other than the one basement on a couple areas of the base. And those that claim the base goes down many levels, there's always that conspiracy dude that says, oh, there's 10 stories, elaborate elevator. There's no elevator and there's no 10 stories. There's literally one story on a couple of the buildings with toxic waste barrels inside of them. So I don't recommend breaking into that unless you want to die of some type of radiation poisoning. But below that one basement is going to be a bunch of bedrock and then the ocean. And that's why there can't be huge basements at Montauk, because it's literally at the edge of the ocean, right next to the Atlantic Ocean with a lighthouse, okay? It would literally be the worst place to put a secret basement base. Because it would probably be swallowed up by the ocean, leaks, and the ocean would leak into it and destroy everything. Just not a very safe place. And to be honest, not a safe place to put material warfare barrels, but they are encased in concrete, encased in bedrock, and let's hope none of that leaks out, all right? As far as the website, I did screenshot it back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I do have it on a disc somewhere here, but I'm not inclined to look for it because I have to get 100,000 views, all right? Without 100,000 views, talking about Montauk, not going to even be bothered to look at it. It's so old that I think I burned it onto one of my discs. That's how old it was. Pre-USB drive. I burned it onto some discs. I have a disc with Montauk Project stuff. I researched the crap out of it. The Montauk Project books claims the base didn't close in '83 like they officially claim. And I was able to prove and confirm with government documents that the base closed in 1984, not '83. So Preston was sort of correct. I think Preston claims the base closed in '86 or '87. Speaking of '87, Max Headroom, 1987. But I couldn't find any evidence that the base was operational beyond '84. And it being operational in '84 probably has something to do with the burying of material warfare barrels. Who knows, you know? But there is a guard station with power running into the secret underground base. There is no secret underground base. That probably powers the security guard's TV. But it's so many volts. It's too many volts for just a TV. It probably powers alarms. There's probably an alarm system around the perimeter. Whenever you have material warfare buried, you're going to have a guard there. You're going to have some type of security system. Conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, forever, spinning into infinity. They went to Mars. They went inside the D&M pyramid, through the wormhole. I think Preston B. Nichols himself said it's one of the few times as an engineer he worked on the Montauk Project. That was his expertise. That's why he knows about it. He said he was employed by the secret German government who had a full-blown communication with gray extraterrestrial aliens. He said he usually watched on the monitors. I think I even asked him this question on the forums. Did you ever get to go through the wormhole? He said, I watched on the monitors almost everything. I said, did you see the rearing horse yourself? With your own eyeballs. Of course, I can't find it now. I said, did you see this rearing horse with your own eyes, Preston B. Nichols? Did you see this with your eyes? What did it look like? He said, I didn't get to go on any of those missions. He said, I saw the rearing horse multiple times, but he was only on a TV monitor, TV screen. He said they would bring a camera through the wormhole. So most of the observations were safely being observed via probably one of the Montauk boys, Montauk girls, holding a camera. And most definitely they just wouldn't send Montauk boys and Montauk girls. They would also send military crew with guns, probably, to make sure no one pulls any shady business. They just got to do their job and return and report. So he saw it only on a monitor, but a live monitor, recording live. Preston said in the books, one of the few times, if the only time, he was ever able to go through the wormhole that he remembers. And he claims after he was employed by these the secret German group, he said they wiped his memory to the best of their ability. Like a Men in Black, they wiped his memory, which is why movies like Total Recall triggered him to remember pieces of it. And he tried to remember every piece up until his last days. I think personally he was remembering science fiction movies, such as Forbidden Planet. In Forbidden Planet, the old sci-fi movie, there is a monster that comes alive from the subconscious of the people there. The technology amplifies the subconscious. So when someone goes to sleep and they have, whatever, that is manifested in a thing. And it manifested into a beast, an electrical, invisible beast, in the movie Forbidden Planet. I think that's where Junior, the beast, monster, in the Montauk Project books was inspired by. Just my own personal take on that. But Preston said he walked through the wormhole and he was inside the D&M pyramid. He said they did send crew to try to drill through the D&M pyramid with equipment, and they could never get through. He said he was impenetrable. So they decided to just open up a wormhole already inside of the D&M pyramid. He said he walked through the pyramid, and there must have been air in there. He didn't say anything about wearing a spacesuit, but I guess he could have been wearing some oxygen thing, but he didn't mention it. He said there was a primitive, well, not really primitive. He said it was a super advanced alien lighting system, just lighting up the walls. Dimly lit, lighting up the walls. He said he didn't know what the lighting system was. He looked around. He said the closest he could compare what he saw inside of the D&M pyramid on Mars was Native American artifacts. And so he had a theory that all the Native Americans are from Mars. They're all Martians, and he's looking at Native American artifacts inside of a pyramid on Mars via a wormhole. So that's one of his observations. Kind of interesting. Preston B. Nichols mentions a book. In this book, Alternative 3, secret Russian USA space collaboration where they go to Mars, and it's supposedly a banned book. I own a copy of Alternative 3. I have that book. It's around here somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is at the time being. But it's a rare book. Not because it's banned, just because I don't think it was particularly popular, except for its hoax factor. It's a hoax just like the Montauk Project book is a hoax. Alternative 3 claims the space program between the Russians and USA, some secret space program. They got in a flying saucer. They flew to Mars in a flying saucer. And there's a video, and Preston claims it's all real. When the Alternative 3 news broadcast. It's been debunked as I think it was a prank. It was just a television prank. And it kind of went wrong. It kind of went bad. And I think it was supposed to be an April Fool's Day prank, but he was a couple days late, and it's questioned why was it late, this and that, here and there. All I have to say is I read the entire Alternative 3 book, okay? And it comes off written like a tabloid straight out of the National Enquirer, straight out of Weekly World News, straight out of the yellowest tabloid journalism. President meets with aliens and strikes up a deal. You know, Bill Clinton shaking the hand of that totally fake alien. The devil's skull has finally been found. The devil's skull? What the heck? So, you know, just the totally nonsense tabloids. The movies Men in Black, they claim there's true stories in those tabloids. Well, Preston B. Nichols is the type of guy to pick up a tabloid and believe every single word in the entire thing. I don't know if he had the ability to distinguish. Some people don't. I mean, it just is what it is. I'm not here to point fingers and make fun of anyone. All in all, it's a very interesting tale, and I wish Preston got a little more credit for his creative writing. I wish he got a little more credit for his stories. Because Preston B. kind of reminds me of Carlos Allende, Carl Allen, who invented the Philadelphia experiment story in the margins of that UFO book, and the case book for the UFO. And Carl Allen saw his Philadelphia experiment story repeated, turned into movies, and he didn't really get to see much, if anything, other than the fact that he made an impression in pop culture. So Preston B. Nichols definitely made a huge impression in pop culture, including Stranger Things, one of the #1 streaming TV shows of all time. Stay tuned, part 2 coming soon. I might be more structured, might focus on book 1, 2, 3, might talk about the Pleiades book. I remember this book being particularly interesting. Preston said, he walked inside the flying saucer, and it was huge inside and tiny outside. Exactly like Doctor Who walking inside the TARDIS. There's a small police box on the outside. Inside, it's a huge spaceship. And he said he was able to experience that time-space distortion firsthand. He said he took a trip to different places in a flying saucer. So he totally left out the story in all the other Montauk Project books of taking a trip inside of a flying saucer. That's kind of a big story, and he totally left it out. So this guy just has tale after tale after tale after tale, taking trips inside of flying saucers that are huge on the inside, small on the outside. So stay tuned. More episodes coming soon. I thank you for watching. I have researched the Montauk Project for decades. I have firsthand contacted the authors. Not particularly Peter Moon firsthand, only secondhand. But, I would consider Peter Moon a creative guy, an interesting individual. Wouldn't mind reaching out, maybe doing an interview with him or something to that effect. More episodes coming soon. Part 2 of the Montauk Project. Inspiration of Stranger Things coming soon. This has been John Rasmus Houston. Be seeing you.